This is Sharon from Crafty and Creative Ideas.blogspot.com. I'm here today to bring you another one of my Wow That's Cool videos from my series. I'm going to show you how to use the Garden in Bloom stamp set, and we're also going to make this custom cardstock DSP paper. This is not a Stampin' Up! Paper. This is something we're going to make right now from white paper. So we're going to get started. The Garden in Bloom is absolutely gorgeous. I'm going to show you the trick to doing these layers. What I did to make this easier on myself, I took the front of this cover, took it out, made a copy of it for myself, and actually boxed in the three layers for each part so that I know what I'm looking for when I get into the stamp pieces, and it's just easier for me to find the ones that go together. That was the first thing I did to make it easier for myself on that. Now when you do this three-part stamping, the trick is when you lay down the stamp set, if you look at, a lot of my stamps are off right now, they're all on my desk because we're going to make this paper, but I had to get them all on the blocks. But if you look at this, this is going to be like the first one, your outline. And if you look at the stamp set, you have a little arrow. Now once we stamp that, so the arrow appears as a little tab on the stamp itself. If you can see this, that's the little arrow like the tab. That's where that, pretty much where that goes. So if you line that up on your paper, like say you're going to stamp these all that way, so it's on the top, or if you're stamping it right so they're on a right angle here, just so you know which way pretty much that's laying, because then what's going to happen is once you go to do the second layer, if you line that same thing up, you're going to find the petals that match this right away, and you can see how this just goes right on top of it, and then the second layer is going to match, and so forth on the third layer. But that's how you use the stamp set itself. I love it. I just, it's so beautiful. It definitely is just watercolor look. It's so pretty. But we're going to make this custom paper, and I'm going to walk you through every step of it. So we're going to get started, shall we? You're going to be needing 5 different inks to make this paper. You're going to need the Memento black ink. You're going to need Blushing Bride, So Saffron, Soft Sky, and Pure Pizzazz. Okay, and we're going to start out with the black because we're going to do all the outlining features first. All of the black outlines we're going to do first and get that started. Okay, the first flower that we're going to need is, we're going to have the clear one, the large flower, and I'm lining my mark just to the right of the top. So it's right here about 1 o'clock, I guess you would call it. And that's the way I'm going to lay most of my stamps out. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to stamp up that stamp, and we're going to do random flowers, but I'm going to keep them all in the same direction so that when I go to lay the next piece, I know that we're at. Don't forget to that you want to stamp off some too. You don't want every single thing to be perfect on here. That's the neat thing about this stamp set. Everything doesn't have to be perfect on here. So I'm just going to kind of go around here and do some random stamping. And I'm going to run this one off, run that one off, put one here, put one there. Let's run this one off. But I'm trying to keep that flower in the same, pretty much on the same angle. And I think that's about it for that. Now we're going to work on the leaves, and I'm taking the larger leaf from this, and we're going to be working on the open one right now. And I'm going to take my black ink, and now I'm going to line these flowers up, these leaves, up with the flower, and I'm going to pick one petal that I want to stay uniform with. So I think I'm going to pick the pointed one, and that's what I'm going to try to line my leaves that way. I bumped it with my black ink, and I'm going to have to cover that up with something here, but okay, now we're going to work with the open flower from that group. And I'm going to try to keep my little arrows up, and I'm going to put a flower down here, maybe one here, just kind of randomly where I see I need something. Okay, the next one we're going to work with is the very tiny little leaf, but the clear one. And I am going to make it so that the leaf, excuse the use of not using a Stampin' Up! Block. All my blocks have something on it right now for this project, so I had to find an extra one here. But I'm going to line these up to the edge of the flower. Anything that has the small flower, I'm going to put the leaf on. This one I'm going to do the other direction. Now we are going to work, this is the fun part, so now we're going to work with the second leaf on the larger leaf. This is this one, and we are going to be using the Pear Pizzazz ink. And what I want to do with this ink is, because I'm going to go over with this with a darker color, I'm going to stamp off and then stamp onto my leaves. So I'm just going to stamp off, and everywhere that I have the bigger leaf, whoops, getting blind here or something. This one I need to turn. I mean, if you forgot to stamp off, it's not going to be a big deal, but now we are going to use the tiny leaf, and we're going to use the solid one. And that one looks like this. Okay, so we're going to use the pear, and we're not going to stamp off this time. We're just going to use it as is. But I'm not going to put a lot of pressure on it. I'm just going to kind of naturally let it just have a little bit of color. Whoops, almost turned this the wrong way. The good thing about these stamps is if you forget, if you miss something, you can always go back and stamp on it again, because it doesn't matter that it's going to look like it, right, like that. It's going to look like it's flowing out of the line, because that's what watercolor does. Now we're going to go and use the third part of the leaf, the bigger leaf, and that's this piece, and it looks like that. And we're using still pear, but this time we are not going to stamp off. We are going to go over the leaf, but we're going to let it go completely dark. Okay, so we're not going to stamp off. We're starting to shape up here. We're going to use Blushing Bride right now. And now we're going to work on the center of the large flower, which is this piece. And if you remember, I said that I kept mine on a 45-degree angle. So if you visualize this point again, you're on a 45 here about 1 o'clock. These flowers are going to line up pretty nicely for you. So we're going to start doing some random pink flowers. And once again, I'm going to take this stamp set and I'm going to stamp off before I go on to the flower. So I'm stamping off the paper and then onto the flower. Okay, now we're going to take out our So Saffron ink. And once again, we're going to line up these flowers. And we're going to stamp off on the paper first and then come back in and stamp on the flower. Stamp off the side and then stamp onto the flower. Alright, we're going to take our Blushing Bride out again, and now we are going to need the center of the flower. So it's going to be the center piece, which is the 4 little dots. And we're going to use that with full ink. No stamping off first. So I'm going to turn my direction. And I'm just going to stamp. I hope my head's not in the way of this video. Let's go back over that one again. And these you might want to push kind of hard on them because we want to make the center of the flower a lot darker. Now we are using the same So Saffron, and we're the same piece from the flower, the center piece, and we're going to do the yellow ones now. Now we're going to be using the flower piece inside. And it's going to look like this. And our soft sky. And I'm going to stamp off before I stamp onto the flower. Our last step on the paper is to take the small part of the flower, and it looks like this, and we are going to do that full ink. Okay, so there you go. So you have your custom paper using the Garden and Bloom. If it has been helpful for you, I would appreciate if you could give it a thumbs up. Or if you even have time to comment, that's great too. Apply list on my blog at craftyandcreativeideas.blogspot.com. And thank you so much for watching this video, and until I talk to you next, God bless.